What if I told you the person who ends up saving your life might be someone you walk past every single day? Someone you barely even notice. This is a true story about a man who lost absolutely everything in a single night, and the janitor who became his unlikely miracle. It's about a woman the world seemed to have forgotten, a man too proud to ever ask for help, and one of those unbelievably improbable moments that just completely changed both of their lives forever. Stick with me, because by the time you hear the end of this story, you'll absolutely never look at the people around you the same way again. You'll finally understand why sometimes the biggest, most amazing blessings we get come wrapped up in the most totally unexpected packages. And who knows, you might even realize that someone in your life right now is just waiting for you to finally see them. This is a story about second chances, about hidden heroes, and about that special kind of love that saves us when we've completely given up on ourselves. So, let me take you back to that fateful night in Chicago, the night everything just fell apart. Welcome to Voice of Granny. And while you're here, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and let me know what you think about the story in the comments, and where you're watching from. You know, sometimes life just has a way of kicking you when you're down, of humbling us when we least expect it. So let me tell you about David Mitchell, a guy who really thought he had it all figured out. David was the kind of person you'd see in magazines. Successful, confident, the CEO of Horizon Tech in downtown Chicago, a company he had built from the ground up. For 12 long years, he had worked day and night, sacrificing pretty much everything for his dream. His corner office sat way up on the 40th floor, with windows so huge, you could see the whole city spread out below like this incredible sea of lights and possibilities. But on this particular night, all those bright lights just felt like they were mocking him. It all started around 9 p.m. David was all alone in his office, putting the final touches on preparations for the biggest deal of his entire life. Tomorrow morning, he was scheduled to sign a contract worth $10 billion. $10 billion. Can you even imagine? It would make Horizon Tech one of the most powerful, influential companies in the entire country. Everything he'd worked so hard for was finally coming together. Then, his computer screen flickered unexpectedly. Just once, a bright red warning appeared down in the corner. Then another and another after that. Within just a few short minutes, every single screen in his office was flashing with all kinds of alerts, error messages, and system failures, data just disappearing right before his very eyes. David's heart started racing like crazy. He clicked frantically, trying desperately to understand what in the world was happening. But it was like watching a building slowly, inevitably collapse in slow motion. His company's entire network was crashing. Customer information, all the financial records, everything that made Horizon Tech so valuable, was just vanishing into thin air. Someone had attacked them. A cyber attack so incredibly sophisticated that his entire dedicated security team just couldn't stop it. David grabbed his phone and immediately called his head of technology. No answer. He then tried his security chief. Voicemail. Everyone had already gone home for the night, completely unaware that their company was in the process of dying. He slammed his fist hard on the desk, his breath coming in short, quick gasps. "This can't be happening," he whispered to himself in disbelief. "Not now. Not when I'm so incredibly close." Outside his huge windows, Chicago glowed, bright and busy, with activity. People were out having dinner, going to the movies, just living their lives. They had absolutely no idea that way up here on the 40th floor, a man's entire world was crumbling right before his eyes. The city just doesn't care, David thought bitterly. It just keeps moving whether you're winning or losing. He had sent his team home hours ago. He just couldn't bear to see the fear and disappointment in their eyes. Now he wished someone, literally anyone, was here with him. The heavy silence in that huge office felt completely suffocating. Just him and the blinking screens showing him everything he was about to lose. That's when he suddenly heard footsteps out in the hallway. Slow, steady footsteps followed by the quiet squeak of wheels rolling across the floor. David looked up, totally confused. Who in the world could possibly be here at this hour? A woman then appeared in his doorway, pushing a cleaning cart. She was wearing a simple gray uniform, her dark hair pulled back neatly in a ponytail. She looked to be in her mid-30s, with kind eyes that widened in surprise when she saw him sitting there in the dark, completely surrounded by flashing red screens. "Oh, I'm so sorry, sir," she said softly, her voice carrying just a hint of a gentle accent. "I didn't know anyone was still here. I can come back later." David let out a bitter, humorless laugh. "Don't even worry about it. You're not interrupting anything, except me watching my entire life fall apart." The woman hesitated right there in the doorway. She looked at him, and then back at all the screens behind him, her expression clearly changing from simple surprise to genuine concern. "Are you okay?" she asked tentatively. "Okay." David shook his head slowly. "My company just got destroyed. Everything I've built for the past 12 years is just gone. So no, I'm definitely not okay." Most people would have apologized quickly and just left immediately. But this woman didn't. Instead, she took a small step forward, her eyes studying the screens even more carefully. "That looks like a cyber attack," she said quietly, almost to herself. "A pretty serious one." David turned to look directly at her, genuinely shocked. "What did you just say? The patterns on your screen?" she continued, pointing. "That's definitely not a random crash. Someone's actually inside your system, stealing and deleting as they go." "How do you even know that?" David asked, standing up now, his attention fully focused on her. She met his eyes with a calm, steady gaze. "Because I used to do this kind of work, before life took me in a slightly different direction." David stared at this woman in a cleaning uniform who was telling him things his own incredibly expensive security team couldn't even figure out. It seemed completely impossible, crazy even. But there was something in her voice, a quiet confidence that somehow made him actually want to believe her. "What's your name?" he finally asked. "Maria," she replied simply. "Maria Santos." He looked at her for a long moment, taking her in. His engineers were already gone. His experts had clearly failed. His company was dying, and he honestly had nothing left to lose. Sometimes, my friends, desperation makes us willing to trust the most unlikely people. "Can you help me?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Maria calmly set down her cleaning supplies and walked right into his office. "I can try," she said simply, "but I'll need complete access to your systems." David immediately stepped aside and gestured to his computer. "It's all yours." As Maria sat down at his desk and her fingers touched the keyboard, something shifted in that office. Neither of them knew it yet, but this moment, this totally impossible meeting between a desperate CEO and a janitor with a hidden past, was about to completely change both of their lives forever. Because sometimes the people who can save us aren't the ones we expect at all. They're the ones we've been overlooking all along. Let me tell you something about Maria Santos that David didn't know yet. 5 years ago, she was one of the best, most sought-after cybersecurity specialists in the entire country. She worked for a major firm out in California, protecting huge banks and corporations from hackers. She was brilliant, highly respected, and clearly on her way to the very top. But then her husband got sick, cancer, aggressive, and cruel. Maria left everything behind without hesitation to take care of him, moving back to Chicago, where her family could help. She spent 2 incredibly long years watching the man she loved slowly fade away, holding his hand through countless rounds of chemotherapy, sleeping in uncomfortable hospital chairs, praying for miracles that just never came. When he finally passed away, Maria was left with mountains of overwhelming medical debt and a resume that looked like it had a huge, glaring gap right in the middle of it. The tech world just moves so fast. 2 years away might as well be 20. Companies wanted someone current, someone without any baggage. So Maria took whatever work she could find, cleaning offices at night, invisible work for invisible people. But here's what those companies just didn't understand. Just because Maria was pushing a mop around didn't mean her mind had somehow forgotten how to code. Every single night as she quietly cleaned those empty offices, she noticed things, security flaws, weak passwords carelessly written on sticky notes, computers left unlocked. She saw all the incredibly simple mistakes that could destroy an entire company. And she said nothing because nobody ever asked her opinion. Nobody even saw her at all until tonight, until David Mitchell, desperate and completely alone, actually looked at her and truly listened. Now, Maria sat at his computer, her fingers flying across the keyboard like she'd never even stopped doing this kind of work. David watched in complete amazement as lines of code filled the screen, as she navigated through his system with absolute confidence. "Your backup servers," she said without even looking up. "Are they connected to your main network?" "No," David answered quickly. "They're completely separate." "Why?" For the first time since the attack had even started, Maria smiled slightly. "That's your miracle right there. Whoever attacked you didn't even touch your backups. That means we can actually rebuild." Hope flickered in David's chest, a feeling he honestly thought was just gone forever. "Are you serious? We can actually fix this?" "We can certainly try," Maria said. "But I need complete access, absolutely no restrictions, and I need you to completely trust me." David immediately pulled out his master access card, the one that opened every door and accessed every system in the entire building. He handed it to her without even a moment's hesitation. "You've got it. Just please don't make me regret this." She glanced up at him, and for just a brief moment, he saw something flash in her eyes. Not arrogance, something much stronger. Determination. "I won't," she promised. "But when this works, just remember who actually helped you tonight." "I will," David said, and he absolutely meant it. Together, they took the elevator down to the basement, to the server room that David always called the heart of Horizon Tech. The air was cold down there, filled with the constant hum of the machines and the blinking lights. Maria walked slowly between the tall racks of equipment like a surgeon carefully examining a patient. "We're going to bring it back to life," she said confidently. "But I need time, maybe 6 hours, and I need you to completely trust me." "Done," David replied. For once in his life, he wasn't the one in control, and somehow that actually felt okay. As Maria worked diligently, David watched her carefully. She was so focused, so tireless, completely absorbed in what she was doing. Every single keystroke was deliberate, every command purposeful. Hours slowly passed. They drank cold coffee. They barely even spoke. But there was something incredibly comforting about not being alone, about having someone fighting right there beside him when everything just seemed totally lost. Around 3 o'clock in the morning, something finally changed. The red alerts on the monitors started to disappear one by one. Systems began slowly coming back online. Files that had been deleted were reappearing. The chaos was slowly turning back into order. "Wait," David breathed, almost afraid to believe it. "Is this really happening?" Maria leaned back in her chair, exhaustion and satisfaction mixing clearly on her face. "Your company is breathing again, Mr. Mitchell. It just needed someone who refused to give up on it." David felt tears sting his eyes. He didn't cry. He never cried. But in that moment, relief just washed over him so powerfully that he honestly couldn't help it. "How do I even begin to thank you?" he asked, his voice shaking slightly. "You don't," Maria said softly. "You just remember this feeling, and maybe you fix what's broken outside the computers, too." As dawn began to slowly creep through the small basement windows, the system flashed a final, triumphant message. "Restoration complete." David stared at those words in complete silence. His company was saved. The big deal could still happen. Everything he'd worked so incredibly hard for was still possible. But somehow that wasn't what mattered most anymore. He turned to Maria, this amazing woman who had appeared out of nowhere when he needed help most desperately. "No," he said. We're alive again, together." When his employees started arriving that morning, they found something pretty strange. Their CEO was sitting down in the basement server room with a woman in a cleaning uniform, both of them drinking coffee and smiling like old friends, completely surrounded by glowing screens showing a system that had miraculously come back from the dead. They didn't know that this amazing woman had just saved the entire company. They didn't know that she'd completely changed their boss's life forever. They just saw a janitor and wondered why she was even there. But David saw her. He really saw her. And he was about to make absolutely sure everyone else did, too. Because sometimes, my friends, the most extraordinary people are the ones we walk past every single day without even noticing. and it takes almost losing absolutely everything to finally open our eyes. The very next morning, David called a meeting with his senior team. The boardroom quickly filled with confused executives, all wondering why they'd been summoned so urgently. They'd heard rumors that something pretty bad had happened overnight, but nobody knew the full story. David stood at the head of the table, and right beside him stood Maria. She was still wearing her simple gray uniform, her hands clasped nervously in front of her. You could clearly see the uncertainty in her eyes. She clearly didn't belong in rooms like this, and she knew it. "I want to introduce someone," David began, his voice steady and strong. "This is Maria Santos. Last night, while everyone was safely at home, our company was attacked. Someone tried to destroy us from the inside, and this woman right here, she saved us." The room went completely silent. People looked at each other in confusion. Some even looked at Maria with clear skepticism. A janitor actually saved the company? Thomas Reed, David's chief technology officer, crossed his arms. He was a tall, imposing man with an expensive suit and an expression that clearly said he wasn't impressed at all. "You're telling us that the cleaning lady fixed what our entire IT department just couldn't handle?" David didn't even blink. "That's exactly what I'm telling you. And starting today, Maria is going to lead our brand new cybersecurity division. She reports directly to me." The murmurs around the table grew louder. Thomas's face turned red. "This is insane, David. You're putting our entire company's security in the hands of someone we don't even know." "I know what I saw," David replied firmly. "I know she worked tirelessly through the entire night to save this company when no one else could. That's all I need to know. This discussion is now over." He walked out quickly before anyone could argue further, and Maria nervously followed him. Her head held high despite the hostile stares burning into her back. Out in the hallway, Thomas caught up with them. "You're making a huge mistake," he said in a low, angry voice. "You don't know anything about her background, her credentials, nothing. This could completely destroy us." David turned slowly to face him. "What could actually destroy us is not recognizing incredible talent when it literally saves our lives. Maria has absolutely earned this position. End of story." He then walked away, leaving Thomas standing there, jaw clenched, watching them go. That afternoon, Maria returned to Horizon Tech. But this time, everything was completely different. She had a brand new badge, brand new access, and a brand new office. The same people who used to completely ignore her when she was pushing her cleaning cart now stepped aside quickly when she walked down the hallway. Some even nodded respectfully. Others whispered quietly behind her back. But Maria kept her head held high. She knew what she was capable of. Now she just simply had to prove it to everyone else. David gave her the space she needed to work, and work she did. For weeks, Maria rebuilt Horizon Tech security from the ground up. She implemented all kinds of new protections, trained a small team of loyal engineers, and slowly earned the respect of those willing to actually give her a chance. The company's miraculous recovery quickly became big news. Investors returned. The big deal was back on track. Everything seemed to be falling perfectly into place. But Maria just couldn't shake this uneasy feeling that something was still wrong. Late one night, as she was reviewing the system logs, she noticed something that made her blood run completely cold. Strange activity, unusual access patterns. Someone was still poking around inside their network, testing defenses, looking for weaknesses. Someone still inside the company was clearly working against them. She immediately went straight to David's office. He was there late as usual, reviewing reports. When he saw her face, he knew immediately it was something serious. "What's wrong?" he asked urgently. Maria closed the door behind her and pulled up her laptop. "Someone inside Horizon Tech is still accessing our systems illegally. These signatures actually match the original attack. Whoever tried to destroy us the first time, they're still here." David's expression immediately hardened. "You're saying we have a traitor?" "I can't prove it quite yet," Maria admitted. "But yes, and whoever it is, they know our systems way too well." For the next several days, Maria worked in complete secret, carefully tracing every suspicious login, every strange data transfer. She set up all kinds of monitoring systems that tracked activity without alerting the person behind it. She barely slept, barely even ate, driven by the desperate need to protect the company and the man who had believed in her. And then finally she found it. A distinct pattern in the access logs. Late-night login from an administrative account. Deleted files. Encrypted messages sent to external servers. When she cross-referenced all the timestamps and user credentials, one name appeared again and again. Thomas Reed, the man who had questioned her from the very beginning, the man who seemed so incredibly angry about her promotion. He was the one who had opened the door for the original attack. He was the enemy within. Maria sat back heavily in her chair, her heart pounding like crazy. She'd certainly suspected Thomas didn't like her. But this was betrayal on a level she honestly hadn't even imagined. She gathered all of the evidence onto a secure drive and walked straight to David's office. It was late in the evening. Most people had already gone home for the night. The office was quiet, just the constant hum of computers and the distant sound of traffic outside. "David," she said, her voice tense. "We need to talk now." He looked up quickly from his work, saw her serious expression, and immediately gave her his full attention. "What did you find?" She plugged the drive into his computer. The screen immediately filled with logs, timestamps, access records. Thomas has been using his credentials to access restricted data. He did it the night of the attack, and he's been doing it ever since. He's the one who let them in. He's the one who tried to destroy us. David just stared at the evidence in complete silence. His face went completely pale. "Thomas? I've worked with him for 8 years. He actually helped me build this entire company." "I'm so sorry," Maria said softly. "But the evidence is just crystal clear. He's been working against you." David stood up slowly and walked to the window, his hands visibly shaking. "If this gets out, we'll lose everything we just recovered. The board will absolutely panic. Investors will run." Maria simply nodded. "Then we just don't let it get out yet. We let him think he's still completely safe. Just give me a few more days to find out who he's actually working for." David slowly turned to look at her. And in that moment, she saw both deep trust and real fear in his eyes. "This is incredibly dangerous, Maria. If he finds out you're investigating him." She smiled faintly. "Taking risks is honestly what got me here in the first place. You trusted me once. Trust me again." He took a deep breath and nodded slowly. "Okay. But please just be incredibly careful." What neither of them knew was that Thomas Reed had already noticed someone was watching him, and he was already preparing to do absolutely whatever it took to protect himself. The game had clearly changed. The danger was now no longer just about computer systems. It was personal now, and someone was definitely going to get hurt before this was over. Over the next few days, Maria played the most dangerous game of her entire life. She set up fake databases filled with valuable-looking information, then watched carefully to see if Thomas would take the bait. She monitored his every move, extremely careful not to let him know he was even being watched. She barely left the office. Dark circles formed under her eyes. David would bring her coffee and food, clearly worried about her, but she always waved him off. "I'm fine," she'd always say. "We're close. I can feel it." Then one night, as she was finally preparing to leave, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. She looked down at the screen and felt her heart skip a beat. "Stop digging or you'll regret it." Someone knew. Someone was threatening her. Maria immediately forwarded the message to David. Within seconds, her phone rang, his voice sharp with genuine concern. "Where are you? Are you safe?" "I'm still here at the office," she said, trying her best to sound calmer than she actually felt. "But this honestly proves we're definitely getting close. They're scared. They're threatening you, Maria. We absolutely should call the police." "Not yet," she said firmly. "If we bring in the authorities right now, whoever's behind this will simply disappear. We need to catch them in the act." The very next morning, Maria arrived at work early. As she walked slowly through the parking garage, something caught her eye. A small black device attached discreetly under her car. She crouched down carefully to look at it, and her stomach immediately dropped. A GPS tracker. Someone had clearly been following her movements. They knew exactly where she lived, where she went, everything. She carefully removed it and brought it straight to David's office. When he saw it, his face went white. This has honestly gone way too far. These people know exactly where you live, which means they're desperate, Maria replied. Let's absolutely use that. That evening, they set a trap. Maria stayed late at her desk, pretending to work diligently on a file filled with fake financial data. David waited anxiously in his darkened office, watching carefully through the glass walls. The tension in the air was almost unbearable. At 11:30 p.m., the security cameras flickered briefly and then went completely dark for just a moment. Someone had definitely disabled them. Then Thomas Reed walked casually into Maria's office, trying to look completely casual, but she could clearly see the tension in his shoulders. "Maria," he said, his voice way too friendly. "Still working late? You're going to just burn yourself out." "Just finishing up," she replied, not turning around to face him. "What brings you here?" "Oh, I just forgot something in my office. Saw your light on." He moved closer, his eyes fixed intently on her computer screen. "You've really made quite the impression around here." David's new favorite. "I'm just doing my job," Maria said calmly. "Your job," Thomas repeated, and now his voice clearly had an edge to it. "Interesting how your job seems to involve investigating people who were actually here long before you." He then reached slowly toward her computer. That's when David finally stepped out of the shadows, quickly turning on all the lights. "It's over, Thomas." Thomas immediately froze. His eyes darted quickly between them, and Maria could see him calculating rapidly, trying desperately to figure out just how much they really knew. "You think you even understand what's actually happening here?" Thomas said, his voice turning bitter. "You have absolutely no idea. Horizon Tech made deals years ago with people who really don't care what burns as long as they make money. I'm certainly not the villain here. I'm just the one who got caught." "You're working for Titan Systems," Maria said quietly, carefully watching his reaction. "They actually paid you to destroy us from the inside so they could buy us for cheap." Thomas's silence told them absolutely everything. "Why?" David asked, and you could actually hear the pain in his voice. "I trusted you. We built this entire company together." Thomas laughed, but it was just an empty, hollow sound. "You built this company, David. I was just your employee. You got incredibly rich while I just got a salary. Titan offered me $2 million and a vice president position. What would you have honestly done?" "I would have had integrity," David said quietly. "Integrity honestly doesn't pay medical bills," Thomas shot back. "It doesn't send kids to college. You can absolutely afford principles, David. I honestly couldn't." Maria felt a flicker of sympathy despite absolutely everything. She understood financial desperation better than pretty much anyone. But understanding wasn't just like making excuses. "Security's on its way," David stated, his voice firm. "You can explain all of this to them." The color drained from Thomas's face. For a fleeting moment, stark panic flashed across his features. Then, with surprising force, he shoved past David, making a desperate dash for the door. David instinctively moved to pursue him, but Maria swiftly grabbed his arm, halting him in his tracks. "Let him go," she urged, her voice steady despite the chaos. "We already have all the evidence we need. He can't possibly run far enough to escape the consequences of this." However, Thomas's intimate knowledge of the building gave him an edge. He quickly located the stairwell and vanished within its depths. 22 minutes and 58 seconds by the time the security team finally arrived on the scene. Thomas was long gone, and all the security camera footage had been thoroughly wiped clean. Maria and David stood in the now empty office, the crushing weight of betrayal hanging heavily in the air between them, a palpable presence. "I should have seen the signs," David said, his voice barely a whisper, laced with regret. "I worked alongside him for 8 long years, and I never suspected a thing. People are remarkably adept at hiding their true selves when they feel it's necessary," Maria replied, her tone understanding. But we uncovered the truth, and that's ultimately what matters most. She reopened her laptop and presented David with the digital trail she had painstakingly uncovered. The illicit money transfers, 23 minutes and 27 seconds, the heavily encrypted emails, the undeniable connection to Titan systems. Every single piece of evidence pointed back to them. This goes far beyond just Thomas, she emphasized, her expression grave. Titan has been relentlessly trying to seize control of Horizon Tech for years. They've been secretly paying people within our own company, possibly even some of our investors. Their goal is to dismantle us from the inside out. David ran a weary hand through his hair, completely drained. So what are we going to do now? Maria firmly closed her laptop and met his gaze directly. We're going to expose them, all of them, she declared. But we're going to do it the right way, with lawyers, solid evidence, 23 minutes and 57 seconds, and the media on our side. That could completely destroy us, David countered, his voice laced with concern. The scandal, the relentless publicity. Or it could be what ultimately saves us, Maria argued, her conviction unwavering. The truth always comes out eventually. Outside the office windows, the glittering Chicago skyline twinkled in the darkness. Somewhere out there, Thomas Reed was on the run, desperately trying to evade capture. Somewhere else, the executives at Titan Systems were likely celebrating what they believed to be a victory. But within the confines of that office, two individuals who had unexpectedly found each other during the company's darkest hour were about to prove them all wrong. Because sometimes, my friends, the pursuit of truth isn't simply about 24 minutes and 26 seconds exposing the villains. It's about demonstrating to the world what you're truly capable of when everything you hold dear is on the line. The next 2 weeks proved to be the most challenging of David's entire life, even more difficult than the night of the initial attack. Maria meticulously gathered every shred of evidence they possessed and handed it over to David's team of lawyers. Together, they meticulously constructed a comprehensive case, not only against Thomas Reed himself but also against Titan Systems, for engaging in corporate espionage and orchestrating an attempted hostile takeover. David was faced with a daunting decision. He could choose to keep everything under wraps, carefully protect 24 minutes and 54 seconds Horizon Tech's hard-earned reputation, and hope that the betrayal would never be brought to light. Or he could bravely choose to publicly reveal the truth, fully aware of the immense risks involved. Maria sat beside him the night before the final decision had to be made. "Whatever you decide," she said softly, her voice filled with unwavering support. "I'm with you every step of the way, but I want to share what I truly believe. The truth may sting for a while, but lies have the power to inflict lasting pain." David looked at this remarkable woman who had unexpectedly entered his life, the woman who had single-handedly saved his company, the woman who had become the most important person in his entire world. "You're 25 minutes and 22 seconds right," he conceded, his voice filled with conviction. "We tell the truth." The following morning, they convened a press conference. The boardroom was packed with reporters, a sea of cameras, and the blinding glare of flashing lights. David stood confidently at the podium, with Maria standing steadfastly by his side, and he recounted the entire story in vivid detail. The attack, the betrayal, Thomas Reed's direct involvement, and Titan Systems' elaborate conspiracy to destroy Horizon Tech. The media exploded with the news, and headlines dominated every news outlet. But then, something truly unexpected occurred. Instead of turning away in fear, customers and investors rallied around Horizon Tech, offering their unwavering support. People 25 minutes and 52 seconds admired the sheer courage it took to expose such deep-seated corruption. They respected David's commitment to honesty and transparency. They were deeply inspired by Maria's extraordinary story, a humble janitor who had transformed herself into a leading cybersecurity expert and saved a billion-dollar company. Within a matter of days, Thomas Reed was apprehended while attempting to board a flight to Mexico. He confessed to everything, providing authorities with irrefutable evidence that triggered a full-scale federal investigation into Titan Systems. Their top executives were brought down one by one, held accountable for their actions. Horizon Tech not only survived the ordeal, but it thrived in its aftermath. The 26 minutes and 21 seconds company's overall value doubled, and new clients poured in, eager to be associated with a company of such integrity. David's crucial business deal went through, bigger and better than ever before. But the most significant changes occurred quietly, in intimate moments that no one else witnessed. 3 months after everything had settled down, David oversaw the complete renovation of the old server room, where Maria had first saved the company, transforming it into something truly special. He brought her down to see it, and when she stepped through the doorway, she stopped dead in her tracks, overcome with emotion. "The Santos Innovation Center," she read aloud, noticing her name prominently displayed on the wall. Tears 26 minutes and 50 seconds welled up in her eyes. "David, you really didn't have to do this." "Yes, I did," he responded softly, his voice filled with sincerity. "This company exists today because of you. I exist because of you. You didn't just fix our computers, Maria. You reminded me of what truly matters in life." She turned to face him, gently wiping away the tears from her eyes. "And what's that?" "People," he replied simply. "Not money, not power, but people who care deeply enough to fight for something, even when they have every reason to walk away." He reached into his pocket and retrieved a small velvet box. Maria's breath caught in her 27 minutes and 21 seconds throat. "You once told me that you just wanted to fix what was broken," David continued, his voice trembling slightly. "Well, I was broken, Maria. My whole life was broken, and you fixed it not with code or computers, but simply by being the incredible person that you are." He opened the box, revealing a simple, yet breathtakingly beautiful ring that sparkled in the light. "I don't want to lose you," David said, his voice filled with raw emotion. "Not as my colleague, not as my friend. I want you to stay with me because you choose to stay because you want to build a life together with me." Maria looked at 27 minutes and 50 seconds him. This man who had seemed so arrogant and lost when she first met him, who had since become humble and found himself through everything they had endured together. "I made that choice a long time ago," she said, smiling through her tears. "You just took a while to notice." David laughed, gently slipping the ring onto her finger. "Then I'm finally paying attention." They stood there in the center they had built together, surrounded by the quiet hum of machines and the soft glow of screens. And they both knew that this was just the 28 minutes and 17 seconds beginning of something truly beautiful. The story of Horizon Tech's remarkable recovery spread far beyond the city of Chicago. It evolved into more than just a business narrative, becoming a powerful reminder that sometimes, the people who have the greatest capacity to change our lives are right in front of us, diligently performing work that we often overlook. It became living proof that redemption is possible, that trust is paramount, and that courage isn't about never experiencing fear, but rather about showing up regardless. Maria Santos, who had once cleaned offices unseen and unappreciated, transformed into one of 28 minutes and 45 seconds the most respected and influential voices in the field of cybersecurity. She became a sought-after speaker at industry conferences, assisted numerous other companies in strengthening their defenses, and never forgot her humble beginnings. She kept her old uniform hanging in her office as a constant reminder that a person's worth is not determined by their job title. David Mitchell, in turn, learned to truly see people, rather than simply viewing them as employees. He came to understand that vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, that asking for help is an act of strength, and that the most enduring partnerships are built on mutual respect, not on rigid hierarchies. On their wedding day, 6 months later, Maria wore a simple 29 minutes and 15 seconds white dress, while David wore a classic suit. They stood in a small, intimate chapel, surrounded by their closest friends and family. And when the officiant inquired if they had anything they wished to say to one another, Maria spoke first. "You saw me when I was invisible," she said, her voice steady and strong, filled with emotion. "You trusted me when you had no reason to. You gave me a second chance when the world had forgotten that I even existed. That's the kind of love that changes everything." David gently squeezed her hands, his eyes shining brightly with emotion. "You 29 minutes and 43 seconds taught me that miracles aren't just things that happen to us," he said, his voice thick with emotion. They're people who refuse to give up on us. You are my miracle, Maria, and I promise to spend the rest of my life being worthy of that. As they walked out of that chapel together, hand in hand, embarking on a new chapter in their lives, the sun was setting over the vibrant city of Chicago. The same city that had witnessed David's lowest moment was now witnessing his greatest joy. And somewhere out there, someone else was likely experiencing their worst day, feeling lost, broken, 30 minutes and 10 seconds and utterly alone. But maybe, just maybe, they would remember this story. They would remember that the people who appear to be the least important might actually be the very ones who save us. They would remember that second chances are real, and that even in our darkest moments, hope is just one encounter away. Because that's what this story is truly about, my friends. It's not primarily about computers or companies or corporate espionage. It's about the transformative moment when two people at the absolute end of themselves found each other in 30 minutes and 38 seconds, realized that together, they could build something far stronger than either of them could ever achieve alone. It's about truly looking at the people around us, really seeing them and recognizing their inherent value, even when the world has decided that they don't matter. It's about holding on to the belief that tomorrow can be better than today, even when today feels utterly impossible. That's the real miracle, not the technology, not the money, not the fleeting taste of success. The miracle is that we have the capacity to save each other, if we are brave enough to allow ourselves to be truly seen and humble enough to 31 minutes and 6 seconds ask for help when we need it. David and Maria proved this in their own lives, and they dedicated the rest of their days to ensuring that other people understood it, too. If this story has touched your heart, I sincerely hope that you will carry it with you. I hope that the next time you encounter someone whom society has overlooked, you will remember Maria. And I hope that the next time you find yourself at your breaking point, you will remember that sometimes salvation arrives in the most unexpected packages. Because the truth is, we are all just one bad day away from needing someone to truly see us. And we are all 31 minutes and 33 seconds, just one moment of kindness away from becoming someone's miracle. That's the story that I wanted to share with you today.